We can start celebrating the weekend this afternoon, this evening. I have a very, very important announcement coming up later in the program. You're going to want to hear it. It is an amazing new thing you need to know about, and you need to be tuned in all throughout the afternoon. I'm going to make the announcement later on in the program, and it is going to have a profound impact on all things that'll make you smile. How about that? Welcome. I am Brett Winterble. 704-570-1110. 704-570-1110 is the phone number to be a part of the conversation at Winterble Show on Twitter. And I do believe, actually, we are streaming. We are streaming over at the WBT Facebook page. I'm sharing that in real time as I speak with you over to my page. And it is tremendous to be here. There was an incredible press conference that just wrapped about an hour ago. Trump's attorneys laying out evidence and takes and all that sort of stuff about the irregularities in this election. This was an incredible bit of theater. And when I say theater, I don't mean in a disrespectful way, like, oh, it's not real, it's fake, it's phony. No. What you saw laid out by Rudy Giuliani, who gave a master class in corruption and corrupted voting practices in the states in question, including, of course, Pennsylvania, of course, the states of Michigan and Wisconsin. You've even got some Georgia concerns out there in a broader way. But to hear all of this laid out in great detail, the nature of this scheme, the nature of the fraud that took place on an industrialized level was remarkable. If you watched that press conference and want to weigh in on what it is that you heard, you are more than welcome to be a part of this conversation. If you watched it and you believe it, we want to hear from you. If you watched it and you deny it, we want to hear from you. It's an open conversation. That's what makes us different, because we have conversations here. I'm not just going to get behind the microphone and start just pummeling you and pounding you and demanding that you agree with me. I believe I can convince you. I believe I can talk to you as a fellow Charlottean, as a fellow Carolinian, as a fellow American, and we can look at these issues and unpack these issues. Essentially, the key takeaway on the Cliff Notes is this. This effort in court by the president's lawyers to challenge the call of this election, the mission here is to get to a court proceeding where you can actually produce and submit and show and examine the actual evidence. That's the core mission of this group of lawyers. It's not to win today the argument or the media cycle. It's to get in front of a judge to say, here are X number of fraudulent ballots. Here are 42 or 100 or 200 affidavits that real people have put their name to contend that there was fraud in this election, that they witnessed it. They've put their name on the complaint. They have put their name and address and information into the court record. They are willing to stand by these allegations and face the very real possibility of a perjury charge if it turns out that they made it up. These are not anonymous tips coming in on the phone and people are sitting there saying, well, we don't believe any of this. This is just a partisan hatchet job as an effort to try to delegitimize President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris. Together, we know them as the Biden-Harris-Biden ticket. And we don't want to stand for that. We don't want to look at that. We don't want to believe that even for a minute, because that's not really what it is that's happening. That's not really what it is that we are willing to accept. No. They want to get the evidence in front of judges. And if necessary, they want to stop the certification of these results in these states. Because, to paraphrase something that Rudy Giuliani said that I thought was very effective, he said, look, you can count the ballots and count the ballots and count the ballots. That doesn't produce any evidence or information. You need to audit the ballots. The fact that in the state of Pennsylvania, you didn't have to have a matching signature. The fact that there are allegations in the state of Pennsylvania that, though Pennsylvania law says no ballots can get counted that are received after Election Day, there was an affirmative move by people to submit ballots on the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th of November in Pennsylvania, though those ballots were not supposed to be accepted after the Election Day close. And that was just an audible that was run by Tom Wolf and the Attorney General in the state of Pennsylvania. I mean, Rudy's guilty of hyperbole sometimes, but as much hyperbole as you think he's guilty of, that doesn't get people to come forward and put their names on affidavits and risk legal action against them for pointing out wrongdoing. That's 100%. That is 100% not the way it's going to be. Are you willing to go to jail to lie to try to help a politician get elected? I mean, really, be honest about that. Are you willing to say, you know what? I love Donald Trump so much, I'm going to lie on an affidavit, and then I'm going to just take the chances, see where they go. Oh, he still came up short? Oh, I'm going to jail for lying in court? Well, it wasn't supposed to work that way. Average, ordinary people are not going to step forward and do that. I don't care who it is. It's hard enough to get a spouse to do it for their spouse, to say, honey, yes, I'm going to sign an affidavit that says that you did this, and that. And then no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to risk everything we have to advance a lie that's not true. That's going to be uncovered. Justice Alito at the Supreme Court ordered Pennsylvania to segregate out all the ballots that came in late and not throw them into the count. That order wasn't followed. That was an order from a Supreme Court justice. There is much to learn about this process still. And I want to invite you to be a part of the conversation. 704-570-1110, 704-570-1110. On Twitter, at Winterble Show. I am Brett Winterble. News Talk 1110 99.3 WBT. Boomer Von Cannon's got to look at the roads.
Hey, thank you, Brett. And East of Mecklenburg have an incident
Brett Winterble, 704-570-1110. Wonderful to be spending this time with each and every one of you. I've got the feed up live. We've got it up over at Facebook, and we've also got it up over at the Twitter page. And you can view and listen to the program at the same time, which is really wonderful. And it's great to be sitting here with you, breaking down all these big stories. Let's go out on the phones, and let me check in with Sherilyn on. Yeah, Sherilyn, welcome to the program.
I am an independent voter. I've
Mhm.
voted since Ronald Reagan.
Mhm.
I always go back and check my ballot. It scares me that somebody could change it. I don't know why, but I did in 2016. When I went back, my vote for president was changed from Donald Trump to Hillary Clinton.
Really?
I called over an assistant, and he went into I got feedback, so it's kind of weird. He went into the machine and it said delete ballot, or it said cast ballot. I said delete the ballot. He picked cast the ballot and told me to go on my way. Well, I called the election office and fussed, and they called me later and said your vote was casted, but they wouldn't tell me what I voted for. And I was mad.
That's unbelievable. You didn't get the name of the person who was doing all this, right?
No,
Wow.
I did not. But this been going on for a while.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because the reality is we don't have a uniform standard by which people run elections, right? Every state's in charge of its own system. And
this was in Midland, Texas.
Yeah. And so what you've got every state in charge of their own system. They choose the vendors. There's no unified standard of reliability. Like if you and I went into business and we said, we're going to sell metal detectors for airports, right? You have to meet a certain minimum standard to see how effective it is, right? But when it comes to voting machines, there's none. There's absolutely none. It's an incredible thing. Each state kind of does their own thing. Really, elections are run by private companies. When you really drill down into it, it's the people that make the smart tech machines, and it's the ones that make the Dominion machines and all that.
People with the most money.
There you go. That's it. Sherilyn, I appreciate you being out there. Thank you for calling in today. We'll go out to Jim next. Jim, welcome to the program. What's on your mind?
Yes. Hi, Brad.
Hello, sir.
This whole thing with the Dominion system and the mail-in ballots, if the Democrats had run the task force to invade Iwo Jima, did you see flags of our fathers where they realized, a couple of the guys weren't actually the ones that raised the flag, but they're out doing war bond tours anyway, and they just kind of overlooked it because of the good of the country?
Right.
Well, if the Democrats would have run the operation, they would have realized, those guys weren't there. They were actors. The whole Mount Suribachi was just piled up sand. They're all a bunch of rubber boats. This is how bad this is going to come apart on them. This is how much of a fraud this election was. They haven't even got to the part yet. Giuliani's lawyer hasn't even gotten to the part yet where Nancy Pelosi's husband and Dianne Feinstein's husband sit on the board of Dominion.
Now, there's some question as to whether or not that's actually accurate. There's some question as to whether or not Nancy Pelosi's husband and Dianne Feinstein's husband sits on the board of Dominion.
I guarantee you that you can start digging, you're going to find them.
Okay. But my point is, here's the thing. And I warned about this day one after the election. You have people that are going to complain about the way the system works. You have people that are going to complain about the way the elections were handled. There are absolutely legitimate claims of fraud out there, but we have to be wary of the people who are going to show up. And now suddenly it's going to be, there's a next level layer of this. Fraud can just be fraud. And it doesn't necessarily have to be motivated by Nancy Pelosi's husband or Dianne. I'm not saying you're wrong, but what I'm saying is we have to be wary of these changes and these contentions that come out, because the left is going to feed them out there to make people look stupid. And I'm going to go with what we know that's concretely an issue. Ballots were not signature verified. Ballots were not address verified. Ballots were not checked against the voting rolls to see if people are dead. And if dead people are submitting ballots. These are verifiable pieces of information we can do. Ownership, investments, things like that. You know what that's for? And here's what I would call for. That's for the special counsel. In fact, the president ought to tell Bill Barr, I want you to appoint a special counsel today to look into voting fraud, to look into voting. Get us a we had Mueller waste 4 years of time. Why don't we waste 4 months of time, 3 months of time, 4 days of time, and get a special counsel to bring these people in, subpoena them, and then if Joe Biden wins the presidency, if it's certified, and then he takes office, then it's up to Joe Biden to fire the special counsel looking into voter fraud, and that's going to be a very bad look.
Good one.
Yeah. All right, man. I appreciate you being out there, Jim. Look, this is a very uncomplicated contention, a very uncomplicated challenge. Here's my advice to people who want to investigate whether or not there was fraudulent voting that took place. Okay. What if we do this? What if we take the voting rolls and we run them against the tax rolls? Did you file income tax? What was the last year that Mrs. Robinson filed a tax return? What was the last year that Mrs. Robinson reported any income or had any interactivity with the IRS? IRS has been around for a long time. They keep pretty good records. One way of determining if somebody's dead and still on the voter rolls is whether or not they paid taxes. Anytime you have to pay taxes on Social Security earnings. Bill Clinton did that. I mean, there's a lot of ways to verify this. We have got to push for a national purge of the voting rolls. On a national level, there has got to be a purge of the voting rolls every decade. All right? I don't want to disenfranchise anybody from voting. And don't tell me, well, it's too hard to get a license. I'm poor. I'm impoverished. I live on the side of a mountain. I can't get out there. No. These people, these folks, they have cable TV. They have cell phones. They have the ability to get all this other stuff, but it's too hard to get a license. The federal government, my advice to Mitch McConnell and to Kevin McCarthy with an eye towards 2022, what they need to do is this. They got to say, if you want to be able to let your citizens travel on aircraft, we want not just Real ID, we want the Real ID Voter Act that says, unless you have a Real ID compliant voting system where you know the people who are registered to vote are actually really people registered to vote, we're not going to accept the driver's licenses in Pennsylvania or Michigan or Wisconsin or Nevada or Georgia to fly on an airplane because you're out of compliance. We ought to come at it from that side. Get creative like Speaker Pelosi. I'm Brent Winterble. Plenty more straight ahead. 704-570-1110. News Talk 1110 99.3 WBT. Steve Counts has the update.
Brett, groundbreaking took place
Winterble Show. Great to be here with you. I just, it's incredible the stuff that we get to see take place in this time. Like if you just think back over the last 20 years, the stuff that you've gotten to see here in America, right? Incredible. You had the Florida recount nonsense in 2000. You had the drama of the terrorist attacks on September the 11th. You've seen the impeachment. Just in the last 25 years, you've seen 2 impeachments of American presidents, both of them failing, and now you're seeing what's taking place in a very substantial and serious way. Now there are lawyers that are fighting this case for the president, and there are lawyers that are fighting on behalf of the states who do not want the president to prevail in stopping the certification of the election. But Sidney Powell is a very serious person. She's a very serious lawyer. She's Michael Flynn's lawyer. She's a former U.S. attorney. She's a friend of this show. I've had her on the show a number of times. And Sidney Powell summed up this battle against vote fraud in, I think, a very eloquent way when Sidney Powell said, "This is our 1775." What does she mean? Check it out. Go. We know what 1775 represented. It represented the events that would bring about the American Revolution. I don't think she's in any way implying the kinetic violence of the American Revolution, but this is a moment of major possible change, major change. And you've got 2 completely different narratives. You have one narrative that says, count all the votes. You've got another narrative that says, count all the legal votes. Count all the legal votes. Rudy Giuliani began the press conference with about a 40-minute breakdown of the different facts. And one of the couple of questions that he raised, or issues that he raised, I thought were interesting was, why was it that in multiple states and municipalities, you had the vote count stop in the overnight? Why was it that you had in multiple states and cities, you had poll observers blocked from being inside the room? We saw it. You saw it in Philadelphia. In fact, if you go back to Election Day of 2020 this year, and you go to about 11 o'clock in the morning, there's a video. You can find this. It's out there. It was on Twitter. I saw the video when it dropped live. There was an election observer he had the paperwork. He had all the stuff that you were supposed to have, the forms, the placard. He was sent by the city elections department to go and observe at a polling place. He was a poll watcher, and he was told that he was not to be permitted inside the building. And he looks at these 2 folks and he says to them, no, I'm here. The city sent me. I'm a poll watcher. Well, you're not going to watch this location. And he tried to go in, and they got physical with him. They blocked him from going in. They said, go find a judge to get a warrant to order you to come in here. We're not letting you in here. Why would that be the case? If it's the great unifying election of our time, we're all going to die of COVID. Oh my gosh, it's the most serious time in our lives. Why are we freaking out about one guy, a little overweight, wearing glasses, looked to be probably in his early 50s, just a regular kind of guy off the, kind of a George Costanza looking guy who was going to observe at the poll because the city sent him to go do it. And these 2 folks that are at the door say, yeah, no, you're not watching this poll. You don't get to watch this poll. Do you remember 2000? Do you remember the guy standing out in front in the black leather clothing with the baseball bat? telling people that they couldn't go vote in that particular poll because they were likely voting for Bush. You remember? I remember that. I remember that distinctly. It's disturbing. Paul's up next. Paul, welcome to the program. What's on your mind today?
Good afternoon, sir.
How are you?
I was just wondering if you could educate me on something. I'm trying to figure out, why do we not have a unified voting system, especially since after what happened between Bush and Gore and what this nonsense is going on. Do you think that they will try to make a unified voting system
No.
after this?
No. I mean, I think people will want it, but I don't think it's going to happen. If it does happen, it'll be Dominion everywhere. I mean, the fact is, if you take the power out of the hands of the states and the municipalities to make these decisions about how these contracts are handed out, and you make a unified standard, that's a tough thing. And I promise you that Mark Elias, and I promise you that every one of these AGs, our AG right here in North Carolina, the AG in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, Arizona, et al., they will go file suit and claim that it's a violation of federalism to have a unified electoral standard because we have 50 separate electing entities on that day, 50 states that are administering the elections. So I think they will fight it tooth and nail because it rings the corruption out of the mix. Don't forget, coming up later in the show, a big blockbuster announcement. You're going to want to hear this. We're streaming live right now on Facebook and also on Twitter and at the WBT Facebook page. Check it out. I'm Brett Winterble, News Talk 1110 99.3 WBT. Boomer Von Cannon's got a look at the roads.
Hey, thank you, Brett. Have an incident with some onlooker delay.
News Talk 1110 99.3 WBT. I'm Brett Winterble. Great to be here with you and taking your phone calls, tweets, Facebook comments, etc. We are streaming live over at the WBT Facebook page. It is good to be here. We've got check-ins from all over the place. We have Jos checking in from the Netherlands. We got Jennifer checking in from Waco, North Carolina. We got Trey checking in with a big grin. David Hertz is checking in from Oakland, and we got folks and Andrea from San Diego's checking in. Those are all folks who are watching us live and are interacting with us. We can interact with you on the phone as well at 704-570-1110. And we go to George next. Welcome to the show, George. What's on your mind, sir?
Hi, am I on?
Yes, you are.
Can you hear me?
I hear you.
Okay, fine. You're Brent?
Yes, I am.
And yeah, I was just calling in because I've had the experience at the last election here in Charlotte. I was an official Republican poll observer, not a poll worker, but a poll observer, which means I could go and observe things, but not interfere with anything going on. I had to talk to the chief judge of the poll place if I wanted to do anything. I needed to go through her. Not any of the workers. So it was a very well run polling place, by the way. It's in South Charlotte. And the thing that I wanted to report was I came in at 6:30 in the morning. It just had opened up, and the first voter in came in there, and he started talking about the fact that his vote had been stolen. And so they looked at it, and he said, they found out what happened. His vote had been registered as having been
cast already.
Cast
Yeah.
Cast up at Panther Stadium, sometime earlier, and so they gave him a provisional ballot,
right,
to fill out. But that was, and that's the first time I've done this observer thing. So I'm like, I walk right into it. I expect that to be all day, but that was the only incident that happened. But how did that happen? That's what I would really love to know.
Yes.
How that occurs, because I mean, that's just my sample of one, but it's certainly
huge,
significant to everything we're talking about now. And also the fact that I was an official observer, and how I did get checked out. I had to have my name on the list to get in there and to do that. So that was being run efficiently too.
Yeah. So let me, George,
people showed up. He got shut out. If they showed up at the door and said, "I want to come in."
Right. Yeah. Okay. So let me just jump in here, George, because only for the interest of time. You are correct. This was a fairly common occurrence around the country. I had independent reports coming to and fro when we started the run up to the voting the 2 weeks before the election. You could actually go cast your ballot. We did have people who would call into the show, and I want to say it was maybe a handful, maybe 5 people, maybe 10, who called in and said, "Hey, I went to go vote, and they told me I had already voted over at B of A at the stadium, and they gave me a provisional ballot." Rudy Giuliani spoke about this very thing today. It's not a clip that I pulled because it was kind of folded into a much longer answer, and I wanted to be efficient with the clips that we're using. Rudy Giuliani said he believes that those ballots that were stolen, for lack of a better word, from the voters, right? People who showed up and said, "Hey, I want to vote." What do you mean I already voted? He believes that the vote fraud or the vote theft was on such an industrial size population spread out among the states that they just figured grab names, vote, and then if the people decide they're going to show up and vote, they'll challenge it and get a provisional ballot anyways, and we'll just count everything. It doesn't really matter. Don't worry about it. That's Rudy's theory of the case, which I think is really interesting to consider. The fact that here's a guy who has worked fraud cases his whole life, mafia cases, criminal RICO investigations. But this idea that we say, okay, here's what we're doing. We are going to just steal every 15th ballot. And if they come in and show up and want to vote in person, then we'll give them a provisional, and then no harm, no foul.
Hmm.
I mean, I would think that what you want to do is have as little fraud as possible inside the system. But then again, I'm not interested in stealing an election. I'm not. I'm interested in voter integrity. I'm interested in any number of those things. I was the person who came in front of the microphone and said I received an illicit ballot out of California at my residence here in the Carolinas. I never opened it. Okay, if there's ever going to be a lawsuit, I wanted to leave it in pristine condition so I could be a party to a lawsuit and help advance this. But I received a ballot addressed to my residence here in Carolina that was at my street address, my name. Clearly, the machine that printed it should have been aware that the letters SC or NC or anything other than CA should never be showing up on a ballot in another state. But this was a problem of institutional behaviors by states. And sadly, you tell me what California, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, what they have in common. North Carolina has it in common. There's something in each of these states. By the way, Gretchen Whitmer may be facing impeachment in the state of Michigan. Republican lawmakers filing articles of impeachment to knock her out of the office. 704-570-1110. I'm Brett Winterble. Another great hour straight ahead. News Talk 1110 99.3 WBT. Hour number 2 now underway. 704-570-1110. 704-570-1110 on Twitter at Winterble Show, at the Brett Winterble Show Facebook page. Imminent White House coronavirus task force briefing is going to take place. I believe that's going to be helmed by Vice President Pence. We had a big briefing earlier in the day today where the president's lawyers came out to press the case on uncovering and taking on the voter fraud issue that is apparently present in many of these states. Really, this is just day number, what are we at? We're day number, today's the 19th, right? So we're 16 days since Election Day. Got to remember, Al Gore pushed this thing all the way out 37 days. I don't see a resolution happening anytime soon. You'll have the certification battle take place once you get to about December the 11th. We will see how this is going to play out, but there's going to be a lot of ebbs and flows. Don't get too high, don't get too low, but definitely stay with us right here on News Talk 1110 99.3 WBT and on radio.com worldwide. I would also ask you to stick around because we have a big blockbuster announcement coming up later on in the show. It is something that I think is going to put a real smile on your face. And I'm going to bring my very good friend, Bo Thompson, in with me to talk about it. And we want you to be a part of this conversation. So stick around, stay here. You're going to want to be with us all 3 hours of the program. Let's start with this issue, because I was watching earlier in the day a conversation take place involving Jim Cramer and a couple other people over on the CNBC channel. And they were talking about getting this election done. We got to finish this. Obviously, Joe Biden's got to be president. Donald Trump's not going to surrender. He's not going to give in. He's not going to give up. He's not going to leave the White House. Oh, gloom and doom, and we're scared, and it's awful. What you're starting to see take place is a number of very interesting dynamics, and it should tell you where you are in the pecking order of importance in America. Where you are in the pecking order in the importance in America, it's pretty low. You're nearly at the bottom of that poll. Who's at the top? Well, Hollywood elites, Silicon Valley types, big corporate CEOs, professors, Ivy League universities and institutions, think tanks, and of course, political action committees. Those all rate much higher. Unions rate much higher than you, the individual. There is no lobby for the individual. It is the smallest minority, but the most vital minority that exists in this country. The individual person with rights guaranteed by the Constitution, granted by God. And so what we're looking at here is a confluence of events. And I saw Jamie Dimon is worried. Jamie Dimon is a big guy at JP Morgan Chase. He is somebody that the rest of Wall Street listens to. He is somebody that is oftentimes rumored as a potential presidential candidate for some reason. And the reason I bring this up is he's kind of beating the drum saying, we're worried. We on Wall Street, we gotta take a stand against the president and let him know that we're moving on. Everybody's got to move on. And so now the Chamber of Commerce is coming out. The National Association of Manufacturing is coming out. These different groups are coming out. Now, the Chamber of Commerce is an interesting group because everybody loves the local Chamber of Commerce. Oh, the local Chamber of Commerce. These guys are really great. These are awesome. Well, the Chamber of Commerce and National Association of Manufacturers and all these folks, they have their own agendas at the federal level, at the top level. They have their own agendas, and it's important to understand that. While I love the Chamber of Commerce, I love what it represents in terms of businesses coming together, working together. I've been a partner I've been a partner with them ideologically on a number of things, right? Especially during this difficult time with the pandemic and coronavirus, wanting to see business thrive and do well, wanting to see business grow. But the reality is, you who went out and voted for the president because you thought he best represented your interests. And when I say when you voted for the president, I'm saying on either side of the ticket. If you went and voted for Biden, you believed that Biden represented your interests best. If you voted for Trump, you voted that way because you believed that person, that potential president, that president had your best interests at heart. We're all kind of in this boat together. We're all in this boat together. And what you're going to see happen is what you've seen happen for the last 16 days. An acceleration and a push to, all right, let's wrap it up. Let's wrap it up. Let's just give it to Biden. We got to give it to Biden. We just got to give it to Biden, shut it down, get Donald Trump out of the White House. We got to get him out of there. And they're even talking about that, about Trump in that way. He's got to go. He's got to go. No, his term ends January 20th at noon. So yes, he will have to go if he's not certified and elected by the Electoral College and is not, in fact, the president of the United States. Yeah, he will have to go. Yes, that's true. But this push that you're seeing on the cable channels, on CNN, on MSNBC, they're just wanting to just wrap this up. They're like, all right, we got to go. We got to go. We'd love to stay here, but we got to go. We got dinner reservations. We got stuff that we got to do. Jim Acosta and the rest of they got to go. They can't do this. That's a mistake. Our democratic institutions and our constitutional republic moves at a particular pace, and it is not to be dictated by many dictators on cable channels or Silicon Valley or Hollywood or Wall Street. They're very wealthy, very powerful people who, by right of their Harvard and Yale educations, believe themselves to be the smartest people in the world. You want the embodiment of the mindset? Gavin Newsom at the French Laundry. All right. Andrew Cuomo telling you that they'll dispatch sheriff's departments to your house in New York State if they feel like you may have more than 10 people in your home on Thanksgiving. See, rules are for ordinary people. Rules are for the little people. The elites who travel in private jets and go to fancy restaurants and who send their kids to the best schools, private schools that are open, while your kids are struggling to keep up at home on a laptop. The elites are important. You're not. I'm not. We're not. Nancy Pelosi never thinks about you when her head hits the pillow. Mitch McConnell doesn't either. They don't think about you because you don't write checks and hold big dinners for them. See, your degree of importance to American politicians is directly related to the size of your bank account. So those people want to get this thing wrapped up and move on to the next thing because they know there's money to be spent and influence to be purchased. I'm Brett Winterble, News Talk 1110 99.3, WBT 704-570-1110 to be a part of the conversation. Let's head on over to Boomer Von Cannigan. Look at those roads.
Hey.
News Talk 1110 993 WBT. Brett Winterble Show. Hey, the office of the president-elect Joe Biden is giving a speech. Do we have a? Let's check in there on the board here. Let's hear what he's saying.
Agreed that we'll continue to work and meet with the governors on a regular basis, continue to seek their input, and that our COVID teams will follow up and coordinate on the issues coming out of that call, because some of them have very competent people on their COVID teams in their states. The bottom line, we can do this. There's nothing beyond our capacity, but we have to come together as a country. What this meeting, along with others we've had, reinforces, in my view, is the unity the country is looking for. They're looking.
Okay, so unity of effort at the government level. I thought we were supposed to be unified as people. Of course, the governors are going to work with whoever the president is. Well, let me restate that, because right now there are governors who won't work with the president. But if we get a new president, then we have unity of the governors all working with that president. I mean, I can't think of a single solitary Republican that's going to say to Joe Biden, if he's the president, I'm not working with you. I'm going to verify the vaccine myself before I give it to the people of X state. But your governors, Mr. Former Vice President, your governors feel totally comfortable just saying, we don't trust these so-called vaccines. They were developed during the dark times of 2017 to 2021. They're illegitimate. We're making lists of people to show up at their homes and physically harm or intimidate them. Oh, this is great. He's taking question. You know what the question will be like? This guy is asking the question will be like, Mr. Vice President, Mr. President-elect, are you sleeping well these days? How do you feel? Can I get you a pillow? Can I get you a fuzzy chair? 704-570-1110. Let's go to, is it JW on one? Welcome to the show, JW.
Oh, Brett.
Yes, sir.
This is JW.
How you doing?
My question is, they're counting votes, but they're not determining if they're duplicate votes.
Right.
I mean, if you said that you got a ballot from California, they must have got it from the DMV.
Right.
So just imagine they sent out ballots and instructions to vote by mail to every immigrant who drives a car.
Yes.
And every non-registered voter.
Yes.
Who drives a car.
Yep.
And every dead person that used to drive a car.
Yes.
Right?
And people that moved out of state. Yes.
Right. So how do you determine that? How do you? And that I think is the biggest problem.
It's true. You're 100%. You're 100% correct. That's why you don't need recounts. You need audits. You need audits of these ballots to see, was this ballot filed 3, 4, 5 times? Did this thing get received from out of state? Where did it come from? And you know what many of these canvassing bodies were doing was they were disposing of the envelopes that these ballots came in.
Right.
Which is disgraceful.
Okay.
which is disgraceful.
And you kept your
mine is never been opened. It's not been, it's, I've got it and it's never been opened. I would post it on social media, but unfortunately I would have to alter the outside of the ballot so that my address doesn't show up. Right. So at some point, maybe I'll make a Xerox of it and then, cross it out and show it. But, oh yeah, it is clear. And it is absolutely addressed to me because it's got my former address encoded in it. It's a vote by mail ballot, and it is sent outside the state of California. So it's.
Well, I agree. The audit is the problem.
Right.
If they're not auditing that way, but the problem is, how do you order duplicates that's been sent all over? What if every state did that?
Right. It's a huge.
Every Democrat state did that.
That's right.
I mean, it was so huge, all those votes. It'll take a lot of time, but how do you prove it? You have to go through find duplicates, some kind of.
Oh yeah, and look, and you can't even verify signatures. They don't want you verifying signatures, which to me is, I mean, what does that say if you don't verify a signature? It just screams open for fraud business here. Okay, Yankee Joe, he's out behind the blue curtain. Yankee Joe, welcome to the show.
First of all, America invade California. That's my first message. Okay, so everybody.
Yeah, he wants us to invade. We have to invade California.
Thing is, Bob Barr last November said, "Wait till June," and I said, "Okay, this guy knows what he's doing because he's not one of these guys. You can't gun deck for my Navy brothers out there. You can't gun deck something like that and just shoot something out. You have to make sure it's perfect because you're going after the establishment." June came and went, and nothing happened. And the thing is, and it's weird, we're upset about Newsom here and stuff like that, but the point is, there's no accountability. Mueller did what he did. Page instructed their thing. And the thing is, it's funny, and it's amazing. Nobody goes to jail. So there's no repercussions of these people breaking the rules and doing whatever they do. I mean, the thing is, Brett, you're late on. Heck, I know somebody that moved out of state that California went after him for his vehicle tax.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
They did it to me. That's right.
Exactly. Well, I was trying to keep that on down.
Well, no, but it's true. I mean, Yankee Joe and I know each other in real life, not just radio, in real life from back in California. So he knows that I am not there now. He knows that I have moved here. He knows when I moved because of the radio station changes. And the fact is that I got a ballot because I was in contact with the DMV. So my point is there's no quality control, Yankee Joe.
No, none. And Barr, I mean, this is like a firefighter. And, it's funny. God forbid this ever happens again. But when there's a tragedy or something like large happens, we know that people show up to work just instinctively.
Yeah.
Because whether they're retired, whether they're sitting in the Bahamas or what, they show up to work instinctively so what they can do to contribute. This guy has been hanging out behind I don't know what he's
hiding.
Collecting government funds.
He's in the basement. He's in the bubble wrap.
And Newsom, what's going to happen to him? Nothing.
Nothing.
That restaurant, he's going to protect him. His nanny, his aunt, she got her hair done. Well, been getting her hair done for months with the lockdown here.
No, you're right. You're right. Joe, you're right. 100%. This is the problem. And we have got to demand accountability. Look, we'll break down coming up here. I'm going to break down the danger of the counterfeit. The danger of the counterfeit cannot be overstated. 704-570-1110. We are streaming live over on the WBT Facebook page, also on Twitter, Facebook, you name it, we're there. And a huge announcement coming up that you're going to want to hear about. I'm Brett Winterble, News Talk 1110 993 WBT. Steve Counts has the update. ladies and gentlemen, with big checkbooks and influence and cell phone numbers of politicians. It's who matters. It's who rates. It's who gets called back. Think about what you've watched take place in this pandemic. Think about what you've seen happen. Think about the way the game is rigged against you. Now, I'm not somebody who's doing this to call for a revolution or to call for unrest in the streets. I've never called for that. I would never call for that. But it's important to understand what's going on here in this country. You voted the wrong way. You voted for the wrong guy back in 2016, and now you need to be made to pay. This is my genuine feeling about this. It's not enough that you put in Biden and Harris. It's that you put in Biden and Harris, whether you did or not, and in addition, you need to atone for what you've done for the last 4 years. No, I know. Your 401ks went up. The stock market went up. You got a great job. You started making some money after 8 long years of economic stagnation. I get it. I understand, man. It's tough. And so now you've got to put on your mask. You can't have your Thanksgiving. You can't talk to your friends. You can't get together with people. You can't go to a concert or to a bar. You can only drink until 10 o'clock at night, but at 10:01, you'll get the COVID, I guess. You can't go to the gym, but if you go to the gym, you might be allowed to go to the gym. You can get a haircut, but only when we say so. The fact of the matter is, you're being made to pay for the sins of the voters in this country. It's true. The pandemic is terrible. The New York City public schools were shut down because of a 3% positivity rate for coronavirus in New York City. Flipped another way, 97% of New York City doesn't have COVID. 3% does, so we shut down the schools. Who does that punish? It doesn't punish the kids. I mean, the kids are sort of punished. Punishes the parents. This is a retributive society like I've never seen before. We are hungry for retribution, and we deliver it every 2, 4, or 6 years accordingly. I remember when Ronald Reagan was elected, Jimmy Carter didn't spy on the incoming administration. I remember when George H.W. Bush was defeated by Bill Clinton. There wasn't an investigation into Bill Clinton's activities in the campaign and the wiretapping. There was none of that. Heck, Bubba didn't even do that to George W. Bush, right? And George W. Bush was nothing but decent to Obama Biden. And then when Donald Trump came around with Mike Pence in 2016, after 8 years of running the economy, running the show, doing all that sort of stuff, that administration decided then it was time to wiretap an incoming administration and to work in collusion after the president comes into power to take out his national security advisor, to systematically weaken the power of the presidency, to make sure that in working closely with people like Adam Schiff and company, you could reverse an election piece by piece, piecemeal. It was a coup. And the coup was pushed to such a degree that we didn't even pay attention to the coronavirus. Adam Schiff never had a single hearing into Chinese influence, into the Chinese coronavirus, into any of the stuff that took place in that time. We shut the entire federal government down for a month to determine whether or not Donald Trump should have had the phone call he had with the leader of Ukraine. Shut the government down. While pandemic was growing, we shut the congressional branch of government down. And so now you've got this problem where you're looking at the situation and you're saying, okay, what's happening here? What's going to happen here? How is this going to play out? Let's look at the election and let's look at the votes, the suspect votes in these states: Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Nevada, Arizona. Let's look at those votes. Let's understand something. Let's presume a 3% fraud rate. Okay? So 3% positivity in New York gets you the schools closed down. So let's say there's a 3% rate of fraud. Let's say there's 97% of the ballots are legit. But let's say 3% are illegit. Now, when you look at that, what do you call that? If you're running a business and you have your employees taking 3% out the door with them in merchandise or money, are you going to fire them for that? Are you going to hold them to account for that? If you're married to somebody and you are faithful to them 97% of the time and you only cheat on them 3% of the time, is that going to be a marriage that you're going to be able to stay within? Unless you're, freaky deaky, right? No, it's not. If you're a doctor and you kill 3% of your patients, is that going to be okay? It's only 3%. I know you loved your grandma. 97 people were fine. She's one of the 3 that it just didn't work out. You want an omelet? You got to crack a few eggs. See, you would never put up with that, would you? You would never put up with that. You'd never say. But Brett, you're making the opposite argument what you're trying to make. No, I'm not. If you tolerate 3% of the election being fraudulent, and it's an arbitrary number, I'm just making it up. Could be 10%, could be 1%. What you're doing is you're devaluing every legitimate vote. You're devaluing it by 3%. If I have a Babe Ruth rookie card and it's worth $100,000, and then all of a sudden you show up with 50 Babe Ruth rookie cards, what's my card now worth? It's worth 1/51st of what it was worth, right? I mean, because you've devalued. When you have fraudulent votes, it devalues the most sacred duty we have as Americans, not as people, not as residents, not as visitors, Americans, citizens, American citizens. Every fake, phony, fugazi vote that goes into the system devalues your vote. You demand loyalty from the people in your life, your wife, your husband, your children, whomever. You demand that they tell you the truth. You don't want 3% lie rates. You don't want 3% cheat rates. You don't want 3% deception rates. You don't want 3% theft rates in any aspect of your life. In any aspect of your life. But we tolerate it with the elections just because that's kind of how it is. I'm tired of that's just how it is. I'm tired of that's just how it is. That's just how he is. That's just how she is. Oh, come on. This guy, we don't like him. Shut it down. We need unity. We don't want to do this anymore. Tell me if you'll put up with 3% theft out of your pocket. You shouldn't have to put up with any percent of theft. You shouldn't put up with any percent of fraud. I talked to an electrician the other day, and you know what he said to me? He said, listen, I did the wiring in your house. 97% good. 3% going to burst into flames any minute. I just don't know what the 3% is. You going to put up with that? Demand the audit. 704-570-1110. I'm Brett Winterble, News Talk 1110 99.3 WBT. Now, this man right here is 100% solid when it comes to traffic reports and all the good stuff out there, getting you home properly and safely. Boomer. 1099.3 WBT. Big announcement, huge announcement coming up into this next hour. Bo Thompson's going to be joining me. And we got a big announcement that we're going to share with the audience. You're going to want to definitely be tuning in, and tell your friends to tune in. 704-570-1110 to be a part of the discussion. Everything's fair game that's out there moving. Right now we have a briefing at the White House. Deborah Birx is behind the mic. She is somebody we have not seen very much of recently, number one. Number two, one of the narratives that's coming out is that Vice President Pence says this administration does not support a national lockdown. They do not want a national lockdown. We do know, as recently as Monday, Ron Klain, who would be Joe Biden's chief of staff in a Biden White House, says that the president is going to do a nationwide mask mandate, and kind of leaning a little bit, winking towards a lockdown. It's pretty interesting stuff. 704-570-1110. I want to go out on the into the sound pile again. There's a lot of good stuff out there in the sound pile. Cut number 25. Gretchen Whitmer is warning you about Thanksgiving. Here's the governor of Michigan. You could, and you shouldn't go near people who have underlying conditions. You should mask up. You should wear a mask. You should wash your hands. You should have the sanitizer handy. You should wear gloves. Maybe. I mean, you can do any number of things out there. But it's also important to know that right out there on the horizon, is going to be vaccine distribution. That's important to understand. We are seeing an explosion right now of coronavirus. CNN, I mean, they have had the daily death counter up there for the better part of 8 months. Currently, 251,000 deaths in the United States, 11 million infections. We still don't know. We have to assume that out of 11,666,000 infections and 251,000 deaths, I'm old enough to remember when you could take a piece of paper and a pencil and do hand math, right? And say, okay, we're going to subtract 251,892 from 11,667,000. And what that tells me is that just about 11,400,000 people have recovered from COVID in the United States, because that's the cases, that's the deaths. They will never tell you the recovery number. And that is something I wish somebody would hold them to account to deal with. What is the recovery number? How many people have had it and recovered from it? What is the percentage? What does that look like? How do we know how we're doing? But what CNN does is they say the House was robbed last night. Donald Trump was outside the House. And then they let you conclude Donald Trump robbed your house. Well, not necessarily. That's jumping to conclusions. Rudy Giuliani today, cut number 29. Rudy Giuliani is getting questioned by a reporter who takes a while to disclose where the reporter is from, and it ends up with laughter in the room. Roll it. Rudy was on fire. He was also melting earlier today. I mean, he was on fire. He was really bringing the A game, but he was also melting. And by melting, I mean, and this is going to be the meme, so don't call up the Brett. You're mean. You made fun of Rudy Giuliani. No, I love Rudy Giuliani. I had him on a bunch of times in the run up to the election. Rudy Giuliani apparently used some hair product just on the sidewalls right here, and he was sweating. He started flop sweating up there under the lights, and he had the brown line coming down the side of his head, and it was really. I'm a huge fan of Rudy, but when your hair is kind of dissolving on the side of your head, I mean, at first, you know what, I was worried. I was worried it was that hair in the can stuff they used to sell, where you get that stuff that would Krylon make that or whatever. Was that the thing that Johnny Bench endorsed? Whatever it was all. What did you put on your head? Nothing. My hair's been thickened. Oh no, it's gonna rain. Do you have a shower cap I can borrow? I'm melting. No, but Rudy was on fire, and I'm gonna let you hear a little bit more of this from the press conference earlier today. There was a lot of good stuff, and every other news outlet, including the Collusion News Network or the COVID News Network, whatever you want to call those guys, they didn't cover a moment of it. They're not covering right now they're not covering the pandemic presser right now either. It's kind of interesting. All right, we got an hour straight ahead. Huge announcement coming up in the front end of this next hour. Stick around. I'm Brett Winterble, News Talk 1110 99.3 WBT.
forecast.
Lots of sunshine in the forecast and knocking on the door of 70 degrees by the weekend. We've had some cold midweek weather, but things really warming up now with high pressure east of Charlotte tonight. We're down to 34 degrees. Sunshine warmer on Friday, high of 68 and near 70 by Saturday. I'm Scott Laurie, more at the Weather Channel News Talk 1110 and 99.3 WBT.
Now 53 in Gastonia, 54 in Rock Hill, 55 in Uptown Charlotte. Brought to you by High Performance Real Estate Advisors, powered by Keller Williams. They'll see you at the closing table. At WBT, we lead local. I'm Steve Counts, WBT News.
News Talk 1110 and 99.3 WBT. I am Brett Winterble. It is the Brett Winterble Show, 704-570-1110. We have a huge announcement coming up, and it's going to be in this next segment at just about 20 past the hour. I'm going to be joined by Bo Thompson, and we're going to share with you something that is just absolutely terrific. I'm excited for it, and I know you're going to be excited for it as well. So stick around for that. Right now, interestingly enough, you've got Dr. Anthony Fauci at the White House at the coronavirus task force update. He's talking about these vaccines that are going to be coming out, and I think it's important to get this information. So let's check in with Dr. Anthony Fauci at the White House.
Settle that concern that people have about that. What about the decision of the data? Who looked at the data? Was that some force that was maybe trying to put something over on you? No, it was actually an independent body of people who have no allegiance to anyone, not to the administration, not to me, not to the companies, that looked at the data and deemed it to be sound. Now that data will be examined very carefully by the FDA, who, together with a advisory committee, the Vaccine and Related Biological Products Advisory Committee, or VRPAC, are going to look at that before the FDA makes the decision about putting this forth for an emergency use authorization or ultimately for a license. So we need to put to rest any concept that this was rushed in an inappropriate way. This is really solid. Now, what does that mean for us? We now, as the Vice President said, are telling you that help is on the way, which has two aspects to it. It means that we need to actually double down on the public health measures as we're waiting for that help to come, which will be soon. We'll be getting vaccine doses into people at high priority at the end of December. We're not talking about shutting down the country. We're not talking about locking down. We're talking about intensifying the simple public health measures that we all talk about. Mask wearing, staying distance, avoiding congregate settings, doing things to the extent that we can outdoors versus indoors. If we do that, we'll be able to hold things off until the vaccine comes. Now, I've used that metaphor that the cavalry is on the way. If you're fighting a battle and the cavalry is on the way, you don't stop shooting. You keep going until the cavalry gets here, and then you might even want to continue fighting. And then finally, one other final thing about it. The very impressive efficacy, 94.5 and 95% of a vaccine, should motivate individual to realize that this is something you want to participate in. So we're going to be talking to you about it likely here in the future about why it's important as these vaccine doses roll out, why we have to do two things: continue the public health measure and get vaccinated when the vaccine becomes available. Thank you.
Okay, that's Dr. Anthony Fauci. Now, I want you to understand, you just heard Anthony Fauci, who works at the White House, who's talking about the vaccines. They're saying that this 95% efficacious rate is up there with the measles vaccine, which is like at 98%. And he's talking about that vaccine. That's an important topic, right? I mean, that is an important story that we should think about and talk about. As we speak, the COVID News Network, the Collusion News Network, the Clinton News Network, whatever nickname you want to give CNN, this is remarkable what they're doing. They are not carrying the White House coronavirus update. Nobody watching CNN, stranded in an airport, unable to see anything but CNN. Nobody got that information if you're watching that channel. MSNBC, I'm sure they're not taking it either. But these guys on CNN, and they have a chyron up that says Donald Trump tries to interfere in the election and undo the will of the people while his lawyers spew lies. That was the actual, I tried to take a picture of it, but it was too far from the TV to do it. While his lawyers spew lies. Look, it's important to have a conversation about information. If you are stuck in an airport somewhere or in an international hotel somewhere, and this is all you've got to get information on, you're going to be miserable. This is the magic. This is the beauty of talk radio. I have been a fan of talk radio since I was a kid. And I mean a kid. If I gave you names of who I was talking about, it would indicate the period of time. But I have loved talk radio my entire life. I used to go to bed at night with a little transistor or a little radio, battery operated radio. And I would listen to talk radio. I'd listen to the news. I'd see what stations I could pick up there in far west Texas late at night, picking stations up on Skip from places like Denver and San Antonio and even further away than that. I love what talk radio can do. I love what news talk radio can do because we have a bond with our audience. I have opinions. The hosts on this station have opinions. The news people have opinions, but they report the news to you. They don't put their opinions out there front and center. To see what's happening to an alleged network of news with editorializing in the Chiron is incredible. They're talking to Ron Klain right now, who would be the Biden chief of staff, but they ignored Anthony Fauci, who just talked about getting the vaccine out there. What does that say about the priorities of that operation? That's not news. We on talk radio have conversations, and we have built up a reservoir of trust with you, the listeners. That's important. But it's not all about politics. It's not all about politics. It's about community. I was well aware coming to Charlotte, the huge shoes I had to fill with Charlotte's most beloved, John Hancock. And I understood that these sorts of opportunities don't come around every day. They don't come around every decade. This is a special time to be in this very special place. And I understand the bond that you have with this station. I've seen it. I've read about it. I've talked to folks from across the country who just absolutely love the great things that we do at WBT. And so coming up here in just moments, I'm going to be joined by Bo Thompson, and we're going to talk about something very special that's about to happen, and we want you to be a part of it. 704-570-1110. It's the power of our community. We're going to talk about it straight ahead. I'm Brett Winterble, News Talk 1110 99.3 WBT. Boomer Von Cannon. How's it looking out there on the roads of community? News Talk 1110 99.3 WBT. I always love when we get to do this because there's somebody hearing this right now who's panicking and thinking that they way overslept or something. Bo Thompson is here in studio. I'm Brett Winterble, News Talk 1110 99.3 WBT. I've been talking all afternoon about a very, very special, big, huge announcement that we have. We are out streaming on Facebook and Twitter and WBT's Facebook page. And Bo Thompson, I wanted you to be here. I wanted to be alongside you on this because this is something that is particularly special for you and for WBT. And being the new guy here, right? I'm the new guy, came in February to fill impossibly huge shoes in John Hancock. We are carrying on a very important tradition, one that's near and dear to your heart, and we wanted to announce it to the audience.
We do, and thanks for inviting me in. It's always good to see you. I don't get to see you very often, but when I do, I know something big is going down.
That's right.
Election night or something like that, and this is just as big. This is bigger even. Can I say that? I mean, look, you just mentioned the fact that we haven't been involved with the bike drive for Kids First for a long time. I guess it was about almost a decade that we did that, and of course, John Hancock was at the helm of that. And I want to say off the top, John, if you don't know, if you're listening right now and you haven't heard, John is experiencing some pretty significant health problems right now and went through a couple of surgeries this week, and he's going to be okay, but he's going to have a long recovery. So what we're going to do this year is carry on the torch, carry on the tradition of the Hancock Bike Drive, as we've done for so many years. And this year, Hancock's Bike Drive, Hancock's Bikes for Kids, Brett,
That's right.
is going to be on December 15th. And we're really excited that we're teaming up with the Carolina Panthers.
Indeed. We are going to be working with the Carolina Panthers on this. It's an opportunity to, in a world that you and I are very familiar with, everything being canceled, altered, changed, or turned virtual. This is a chance to get out, do some good, put your hands on the project, and help get these kids the sort of special Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or whatever that they deserve this time of year. And I'm so proud to be working with you on this, with the Carolina Panthers, WSOC as well. A very important opportunity for us to do some real good here.
Absolutely. And so because Hancock can't be with us this year, he's got a long road to recovery, but he's going to get there. But while he's on that road, we're going to carry on the torch and the tradition, and we're going to honor John. And we're all going to do this for John Hancock. And I know the listeners out there who have come through for him for so many years, and it's a WBT collective. It's all of us, but we all we're under the leadership of John. And so what's going to happen this year is the Carolina Panthers, as you mentioned, WBT and WSOC TV are inviting the community to Bank of America Stadium on Tuesday, December 15th from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. for a special Hancock's Bikes for Kids collection where new bikes for need-based youth will be donated and collected all day long at Bank of America Stadium. What a great venue.
Absolutely, and so fitting at this time of the year. We got the Panthers, rolling and looking strong and looking good, and to be able to come on down to the stadium on December the 15th and donate those bikes. It's going to be a terrific opportunity for people to show that giving spirit that is so present here in Charlotte.
And people may ask, Kids First, which has for so long been involved with this, Kids First of the Carolinas is currently not providing services this year due to the pandemic. And so, as I said, we're going to carry on like Hancock would want us to and the community would want us to. And so I said this morning when we had David Chadwick on Pat McCrory's show talking about another initiative. I said the 50,000 watts. This is when we use the 50,000 watts for the good. And this is your first go round with this, but you're going to be amazed. Last year at South Mecklenburg High School, we collected 1,000 bikes. And TJ, you were there with me. And that was something special. 1,000 bikes. And every year we up the ante, right? We want to collect more, and we want to collect as many as we ever have this year, and do it for John and do it for the kids.
And we've got a stadium to work with here, so we've got plenty of room for the bikes. And look, looking back at this, and it's so important because I'm a student of radio, as I know you are. We're both a couple of guys that love what we do in this medium. John Hancock has done this for 29 years. Started this 29 years ago and has collected nearly 20,000 new bikes for the kids. That's the power of WBT and radio and the giving heart right here in Charlotte.
And we talk about every year at the bike drive, you could always remember your first bike. Absolutely. I don't care if you're a Republican, a Democrat, a kid, an adult, you can remember your first bike. Think about it. Just for a second right here. I want you to stop out there listening. Think about that first bike. It's an important rite of passage time of your life. And we want every kid to experience that in the community. So again, I want to remind you, new bikes can be dropped off at Bank of America Stadium's Lowe's. That's the East Gate Plaza on Mint Street. And then WBT and WSOC will host live coverage of the collection throughout the day. Visitors will have the chance to meet WBT and SOC personalities and drop off the bike. And again, I want to reiterate, Tuesday, December 15th, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. This is an all day long thing, which is a bit different than what we've done in the past on a Friday night. This is going to be on Tuesday, December 15th. And we will be out there, and this is going to be fantastic. And I'm so happy we can continue the tradition.
I am as well. It's a great tradition. We ought to acknowledge some of these community partners that are going to be working with us to accomplish this important mission, including the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department, Crisis Assistance Ministry, Northside Baptist Church, Thompson Child and Family Focus, and of course, the Carolina Panthers.
Fantastic. And so if you're listening right now and you've been wondering what's going to happen this year with the bikes, the longstanding tradition, there you go. The big announcement, it will carry on. And not only this year, this is going to carry on. You're going to carry on the torch, which is so fitting. And I'm so happy for it. And it's going to be a great thing to see you take charge of. And I'll be right there supporting you every step of the way.
You know what I think is so incredible is under such a terrible series of events this year, COVID, businesses facing challenges and things like that. The one thing that hasn't diminished, you've talked about it with your Heroes segments on your program, the giving spirit of people. It seems that the generosity is still there, Bo Thompson, and still there ready to get fired up. You already see people with the Thanksgiving and the Christmas and the holiday spirit. People are ready to step up and do some special things.
And people are ready to rally around doing something good. It's a divisive time right now. We're coming out of this election. We're coming hopefully out of this pandemic. I heard you just talking about Dr. Fauci and the announcements about the vaccines. We're hopefully rounding the corner here, and on the other side of it is a new year. And let's finish this year. Let's look back on 2020 and say we ended it the right way. WBT, John Hancock, the legacy that he put in place, WSOC, and all the partners you mentioned. Again, this is Hancock's Bikes for Kids, and it's coming up very, very soon. And it's so easy. Brett, every year I'm on the air for this event as we've done it in the past. And I always say, how easy is it to stop by, Target or Walmart or wherever you are, pick up a bike or two or three. And trust me, sometimes it's whole trailers full.
Sure.
But it's an easy thing to do. And what kid doesn't want or need a bike?
And a great opportunity to get your kids involved. Maybe bring your son, your daughter, both of them, the whole crew out to pick them out, because they're going to know what a kid's going to really like to ride. And that's so important and so special in a world that is got so much upheaval in it going on right now. The chance to give kids that miracle, that magic, we can't pass that by. December 15th over at the Bank of America Stadium.
Let's do it for John Hancock.
Amen.
Let's carry on the torch that he lit, and let's make it bigger and brighter than ever.
Bo Thompson, I appreciate you coming in here today. Always great to catch up with you. I'll be visiting with you tomorrow morning as well. Talk more about this, but thanks for making the special trip.
Always a pleasure, Brett.
All the best. That's Bo Thompson. I'm Brett Winterble. News Talk 1110 99.3 WBT. Steve Counts has the update. News Talk 1110 99.3 WBT. Brett Winterble and the Brett Winterble Show. Thanks again to Bo Thompson for coming by and obviously being such an important part of the bikes project here. And I'm excited to be a part of this. I think it's going to be phenomenal. Hancock's Bikes for Kids. It's going to be a very, 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 very special project that we get to do. Interesting. We are seeing updates aplenty regarding different aspects of the holiday coming up here. We have, of course, right now, Vice President Pence is talking. We also have right now Governor Henry McMaster's talking from Columbia, South Carolina. And we have not seen that. This is the first one we've seen in a long time. We haven't seen a McMaster briefing in months. Yeah, I mean, maybe the late summer, something like that. Vice President Pence is speaking, though. I want to go back out to this because it's very sad to me that CNN and MSNBC, they're not covering the White House coronavirus briefing. This is obviously important information. It's not a partisan event. Let's listen to what it is that Vice President Pence is talking about.
America has never been more prepared to combat this virus. But let me be clear as I close. We all have a role to play in the days ahead. And you heard this team say as we see that finish line, as we see light at the end of the tunnel, as President Trump often says, and you should see evidence here that we are rounding the corner to that day that we have a vaccine for the American people. We do want to encourage every American to continue to do your part. Wash your hands, practice social distancing, wear a mask when social distancing isn't possible. Do your part to put the health of your family, the health of your neighbors, the health of the people in your community first. We are all in this together. And as I've said many times from this podium over many, many months, I know that with the cooperation of the American people, with our incredible doctors and nurses and first responders, with the extraordinary partnership of federal and state and local health officials, and with God's help, we will get through this, and we will get through this together.
All right, that's the Vice President Mike Pence talking about this coronavirus battle. He is obviously wrapping that briefing up right now. Henry McMaster is certainly he's doing a briefing as well. He has a graphic up that says "Test before Turkey," and it was funny because, truth be told, I have a series of monitors here in front of me, and I looked quickly at his signage, and I thought it said "Test the Turkey," and I was going to say, now hold on a minute, there, Governor. We're going to test the turkey. We're getting a little. I mean, I get it. I always thought if you deep fried it, you were pretty much covered for everything. But obviously, I misread that it was test before turkey. There is obviously a run on turkey graphics for briefings and media availabilities. Yesterday, Cuomo had a cartoon turkey up, and he said his catchphrase yesterday was really phenomenal. Was "Don't be a turkey on Thanksgiving." And when he said turkey, it popped up on the screen. It was like so magical for a moment. Let's go on the phones and check in with Marie. Marie, welcome to the program. What's on your mind today, Marie?
Thank you. Thank you, Brad.
How are you?
I just wanted to say, happy Thanksgiving to everyone that's out there.
Yes.
I'm a visionary and I believe in God. And I know that 80% of the people in our country believes in God. And I just want to tell them that I know that we are having hard times, but in the Bible in Matthew 6:27, it says, "And which of you, by worrying, can add 1 hour to your life?" So enjoy yourself and let God do his plan for you. Mm-hmm. And I also want to say that, oh my God bless, President Trump and Vice President Pence for the vaccine that's coming out. They have been a blessing for our country. And also, I just wanted to also mention that, they talk about the elites, but the only elite person for me, a powerful person, a person with superior quality of any group of society, his name is God. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. And if you reach a higher consciousness and you become a visionary, which the elites, when they go to these fancy schools,
yes,
they get misinformation, mm-hmm. and that's all they learn, and they don't have a clean slate in order to reach that higher consciousness.
I think that's
the highest intellect would be, reaching that, being a visionary and seeing things that they're using as tattoos on their bodies, like an eye, which is the all-seeing eye, or the eye of Horus, or seeing God himself when you're on your knees and you're calling on to Jesus. I think.
Well, yeah, prayer is an unbelievably important thing, especially in a time when people are feeling very emotional, or they're feeling detached, or they're lonely, or they're worried. Look, it's very important for all of us to understand a couple of things. We have been placed in this place at this time for a purpose. And whether it's us working to try to bring hope to the rest of the world when it comes to liberty and freedom, which I think is something that every American ought to take as a serious mission, speaking to the freedom of the human spirit and soul, to the opportunity to do incredibly great things here. America gets such a rotten rap from people who want to say to you, your country is bad, you are bad, we are not a great nation, none of that stuff. We are a force for good. We're not a force for good 100% of the time, right? Because we make mistakes. But on the balance sheet, we are much better than we are bad. Much better than we are bad. And when you look at our industry, when you look at our science, when you look at our science companies that are able to, in 7 months, 6 months, pull together a vaccine regimen to take on this virus that is harmed and killed people around the world, and will be the people that are now able to distribute that virus killing vaccine or prevention vaccine to get out there. It's a hugely important undertaking that cannot be underestimated. It just cannot be underestimated. And I would hope that those people who for years have demonized these sorts of companies, demonized capital, demonized capitalism, demonized investment in these sorts of things, I would hope they would rethink the position, because no government can create a vaccine like this. They don't have the capacity. No government can invent a rocket that gets you up to the International Space Station the way SpaceX has done. That's because these are businesses and institutions that operate on the premise of investor capital needs to be deployed wisely to get a return. This is not rich guys sitting around a table lighting cigarettes and cigars with $100 bills and laughing at the poor people. That's not the case at all. And I think this idea that we have this consciousness in our nation right now that wealth or success is something that ought to be avoided at all costs, I think is a huge mistake. It's a great motivator. It ought not be the objective in life, but it ought to be something that motivates you to do better and to strive and to achieve as much as your God-given talents can give you. It's my 2 cents. What do you think? 704-570-1110. I'm Brett Winterble, News Talk 1110 99.3 WBT. Boomer Von Cannon's got a look at the roads.